Here we have the results for Lab 18 for Staphylococcus aureus. And you can see that we've got growth of the bacteria, and then we have this zone around our discs. This is called the zone of inhibition. And what we'll do is measure this zone to determine if the organism is susceptible to that particular disinfectant or antibiotic in the case of Lab 19. If the organism is resistant to that, or if it's kind of intermediate. So what I'm going to do, since I don't know exactly which chemical you use, I'm just going to measure the zone of inhibition and then give you those measurements. So what I'm going to do is get a metric measurement here. I'm going to use my centimeter side, and then each one of those smaller lines there represents millimeters, and that's what I'm going to get my measurement in. So for number 1 here, I'm just going to measure all the way across for my zone of inhibition, and I see that I have 22 millimeters. Okay, and I'm going to do that on all of my discs here. So for this one, I have a zone of, looks like 16 millimeters. Now on number 3, you'll notice something a little bit different than what we saw with the others. We have a large zone here, but you'll notice that we have some of these little colonies in there that are within the zone. This is when we have a zone of inhibition, but we say that we have resistant colonies in the middle there. So I'm going to record my entire zone, but on the data sheet you would write has resistant colonies. So my zone there is 25 millimeters. And then in number 4, I have 24 millimeters. Now I'll move on to 5. And I'm going to measure at the narrowest point here. So I have 17 millimeters. 6. I have 12 millimeters. 7. 22 millimeters. And 8 is really small. Can barely see that there's a zone. So maybe about 9 millimeters on that one. And then looking at 9, 10, 11, and 12. So one of these worked, or 2 of these worked really, really well. Because I can see I've got growth all the way up to 11. So 11 is definitely going to be 0. 9 and 10, I don't know what y'all use there, but these are both are very highly effective. So 9 and 10, just make a note that we really couldn't measure. It was greater than 30 millimeters. And of course 11, you've got growth all the way up to the disc on this side. Okay, and so we'll say it's 0. And then 12, I'm just going to measure to the halfway point there, and then double it, because whatever 10 was has affected the zone around 12. So I'm going to say I have about 14 millimeters on 12.